Tonight on the WHAS11 night team. The family of Jefferson County Sheriff Deputy Brandon Shirley is offering more money for information leading to a conviction. This comes after the charges were dropped against the two men accused of shooting him. Plus,
everybody wants to know or ask why, or they all have an opinion of your existence.
Amid President Trump's executive order to recognize only two genders, name change clinics in Louisville continue. And later, a development in a story our Focus investigative team first brought you. Louisville's largest homeless shelter was operating without a license.
Then we realized that our license had lapsed.
Focus is now finding other homeless shelters in the metro have been operating without licenses. Right now on the WHAS 11 night team. First here tonight at 11, after charges were dropped against the two men accused of shooting and killing a Jefferson County Sheriff deputy, the family has upped the reward for information leading to a conviction. Thanks for joining us here on the night team. I'm Alex Dieterer. Deputy Brandon Shirley was shot and killed in August of 2021 while working off-duty security. 5 months later, Jesse Johnson and Marquise Mitchell were arrested and charged with murder. Now, the prosecutor's office has dropped the case, citing a lack of evidence and new information that has come to light. In a new statement, the Shirley family said they are heartbroken and deeply frustrated by the move, saying in part, quote, "This is not just about seeking justice for Brandon, it's about ensuring that no other family has to endure what we're going through. Our son dedicated his life to serving and protecting others, and he deserves a real investigation by people who genuinely care about finding the truth." The family has now added $10,000 to the existing $75,000 reward for information leading to a conviction. And a teen is dead after he was thrown from an SUV in a Franklin County crash late this morning. Kentucky State Police say they responded to the crash on Interstate 64 just after 11 this morning. Troopers say the SUV was traveling west on 64 when it hit a car. The collision caused the SUV to leave the road and crash into a rock embankment. A 16-year-old was ejected from the car. The teen was taken to the hospital where they later died. Shively police have now made an arrest in yesterday's deadly shooting of a teen. 27-year-old DeMontes Daniel Hutchins has been charged with murder and tampering with physical evidence in connection with the shooting. Police say the shooting happened last night around 6:30. When officers arrived, they found a boy in his early teens with gunshot wounds. He was taken to the hospital where he later died. A President Trump executive order now federally recognizes two genders. This change hasn't stopped name change clinics from continuing to guide people of all communities through the process right here in Louisville. The WHAS 11 night team's Clarice Shirley and photojournalist Aspen Hester went to a clinic this week and heard from the people the executive order could impact. Clarice.
Alex, people tell me they're unthreatened, with more clinics to come, even with Trump's recent order and new state bills introduced by Kentucky lawmakers.
Definitely more whole as a person.
Coming to Logan Street Market in Germantown for change.
I definitely feel like it's just easier to explain everything.
Nikki, who did not want her face shown on camera, is among others at the name change clinic receiving guidance, filling out the document, and taking a new step in their lives.
The forms themselves are actually not that complicated, but people have never done it before and they're afraid about going to court by themselves, that kind of thing.
She's filling out the form amid uncertain times.
So it's very nerve-wracking. It's very much of why us, why me. It feels like there's an unnecessary focus on it.
During President Donald Trump's first week in office, he declared only two genders would be recognized, male and female.
And transgender operations, which became the rage, will occur very rarely.
2 years ago, Kentucky's legislature banned gender-affirming care for minors. In this legislative session, there have been 3 bills introduced. One of them aims to overturn an order by Governor Andy Beshear stopping funding for conversion therapy. One of its supporters is Republican Representative Emily Callaway, who calls the order unconstitutional and harmful to the state's youth, saying, quote, "I believe this is discriminatory toward Christian families, counselors, and clients who wish or seek a specific form of counseling. As limitations continue for transgender people, the clinics continue.
Well, because it's the right thing to do and because it's nobody else's business.
Preparing for uncertain times ahead.
It makes me have like backup plans.
Another clinic is on March 22nd from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Hop Atomica. Trump's definition of genders in his executive order has been criticized by medical and legal experts. In the studio, Clarice Shirley, WHAS 11 Night Team on your side.
All right, thank you, Clarice. And new tonight, Representative Morgan McGarvey is slamming President Donald Trump's pardons of defendants charged in connection with storming the Capitol on January 6th. In a video posted to social media, McGarvey highlighted the stories from Capitol Police. He called the move dangerous and said it makes us all less safe. We asked McGarvey about the post yesterday.
He should not have done this. It showed, I think, a callousness to what happened, a willingness to try to rewrite what happened, and sort of his continued campaign of vengeance now that he's become president again.
Trump issued his pardons the first day he was in office and said that many of the people charged were serving ridiculous and excessive sentences. And we're learning soldiers from Fort Campbell, Kentucky are now heading to the southern border to help in Trump's mass deportation plans and securing the southern border. Soldiers assigned to the 716th Military Police Battalion and the 101st Airborne Division will integrate with military forces already working at the border. In an interview with ABC's Martha Raddatz, Trump's border czar, Tom Homan, said they would be using military planes daily to fly migrants out of the country.
They're on the border, not only helping us with departure flights on military planes, but they're helping to build infrastructure. They're putting up Constantino wire. They're down there to create a secure border and lock that border down. And DOD's helped administrations before, but not at this level. So it's a force multiplier, and it's sending a strong signal to the world our border's closed.
According to U.S. officials, on Thursday, the military flew more than 150 migrants to Guatemala on 2 separate flights. However, 2 flights carrying at least 160 people were blocked from landing in Colombia today by the government there. And this led President Trump to threaten steep tariffs on imports and other sanctions on the longtime U.S. partner. However, just into the newsroom, the White House is now claiming victory. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said in a late statement tonight that the, quote, government of Colombia has agreed to all of President Trump's terms, including the unrestricted acceptance of all illegal aliens from Colombia returned from the United States, including on U.S. military aircraft without limitation or delay, end quote. Leavitt said the tariff orders, which would have put in place 25% tariffs on all Colombian incoming goods and then raised them to 50% in a week, will be held in reserve and not signed. Colombia's government also confirmed the deal and said the 2 countries will have a high-level diplomatic meeting in Washington, D.C. in the coming days. Meanwhile, 2 more members of Trump's cabinet received Senate confirmation. Former South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem will now head the Department of Homeland Security, and the president's controversial choice to lead the Defense Department, Pete Hegseth, was also sworn in over the weekend. Hegseth won thanks to a tie-breaking vote from Vice President J.D. Vance. 3 Republicans voted against him, including Kentucky Senator Mitch McConnell, who said that Hegseth has yet to prove he can pass the test of leadership. This week, the Senate will hold confirmation hearings for 3 more of Trump's cabinet picks: Tulsi Gabbard for Director of National Intelligence, RFK Jr. for Health and Human Services, and Kash Patel for FBI Director. A new challenge to Kentucky's strict abortion ban will be heard in court tomorrow. The lawsuit was filed by the Kentucky ACLU on behalf of a pregnant Louisville woman called Mary Poe to protect her privacy. The lawsuit claims that Kentucky laws blocking abortions violate the woman's constitutional rights to privacy and self-determination. Kentucky's Right to Life is pushing back on that claim.
And that's not to say that every woman has to raise the child that she's carrying, but to have that baby and to give that baby a chance.
I think that the Right to Life organization, if they truly want to be pro-life, they should focus on making sure that children in Kentucky are fed and that people aren't dying because they can't get medical treatment.
Poe did have the abortion procedure done in another state after she filed the lawsuit. Arguments will be heard tomorrow, where the motion for class certification will be addressed. 1 month from now, February 25th, will mark 3 years since Russia invaded Ukraine, a major escalation of the Russo-Ukrainian war. The 2022 invasion, which is the largest and deadliest conflict in Europe since World War II, has caused hundreds of thousands of military casualties and tens of thousands of Ukrainian civilian casualties. The Russian city of Kherson was captured by Russian forces early on in the conflict and then later liberated by Ukrainian troops. Now that city sits close to Russian-occupied territory. And today, Louisville residents had the chance to hear first-hand accounts of life from Kherson from 2 people who have lived it.
Russian occupation in Kherson, it's terror, no freedom of speech and action. It's dictatorship.
Virtually everyone that I know is either themselves the victim of a war crime, has someone in their circle that is a victim of a war crime, or witnessed a war crime being perpetrated.
The event today, called Voices from Ukraine, Hope, Hardship, and Humanitarian Aid, was held at the Northeast Regional Library. Melwood Art Center is left cleaning up after the cold temperatures led to flooding this weekend. Take a look at this. So this is what the center looked like last night. Rushing water left puddles at the center, and this is what Melwood Art Center looked like this afternoon. Mud left behind, and here you can see piles of boxes that have been soaked through and a trash can full of wet bits and pieces from inside the art center. Louisville Fire did tell us that the fire protection system froze during the frigid weather, and when it finally thawed yesterday, the pipe burst. They tell us crews were able to easily and quickly shut off the system and said the damage should be contained and minimal.